everyone. My name is Jane McDougall. I'm here from quantumenergyhealing.co.uk. I am a multidimensional energy healer, quantum hypnosis, and QHHT practitioner. I'm here today to finish part 2 of our quantum consciousness talk on the importance of connecting to your higher self and its role in the ascension process. Connecting with and integrating your higher self goes hand in hand with shifting into 5D and higher levels of consciousness. In the last session, we talked about how everyone can connect to their higher selves, how the higher self consciousness is you and you are it. It's just you at a higher frequency. We also discussed how the higher self-consciousness can be related conceptually as the monadic or the oversoul layer of our consciousness, and could be perceived to some degree as a group consciousness functioning somewhat like a council, as it consists of a spectrum of consciousnesses that have come together with their knowledge, understanding, and experiences to explore the consciousness journey from a certain perspective, okay? It resides and is accessed within the 9th layer of the 12-layer human energy matrix. And the higher self, because of its frequency, doesn't necessarily manifest directly into the lower densities. That's why we are a fractal of the higher self. But rather it's accessed through our minds as we raise our frequency within, shift our consciousness to connect to it, okay? Now, as we mentioned, the human energy matrix generally has 12 layers, metaphorically corresponding to the 12 strands of DNA, divided into 4 harmonic triads of consciousness: the personality matrix, 1st, 2nd, and 3rd, the soul matrix, 4th, 5th, and 6th, the monadic matrix or consciousness triad at 7, 8th, and 9th, and then the Christic Buddhic at 10, 11, 12. 12 being fully activated and integrated is the I am, okay? So our journey into 5D is just the beginning. There's a lot more work that we have to do, and we're all capable of it. Okay, now let's talk about our connection to our higher selves from a more practical perspective. Okay, as with everything, if the information I bring forward doesn't resonate, please feel free to leave it behind. That's fine. It's not for you. That's cool. If it does trigger you, then take a journey within to understand why. Ask questions. Take some aspects, leave the rest, yeah? If it resonates in your heart, then follow your heart, and I hope this is useful, helpful, and insightful for you, okay? Now, let's talk about the types of information that we access through our higher selves. Understanding that your higher self is you. That is the most important thing I want to instill in each and every one of you, is that the higher self is you. All right, you already hold higher levels of consciousness. You already know how to navigate energy. You already know how to work with energy. It's just about remembering it. And in remembering, well, the process of remembering is as simple as just expanding your consciousness and dissolving the energetic barriers that you currently have. Yeah. Remember, with energy, anything that's been done can be undone. All right, nothing's permanent. It can always be transmuted or alchemized in the moment. All right. So the information you can access through your higher self includes all past, present, future, and parallel lives throughout your incarnational journey, multidimensionally. Okay, so this includes lives on Earth. And now I want to expand it, because many people will sit and say, well, do you believe in reincarnation? Okay, so assuming reincarnation does occur, and well, I just see it all the time. Okay, so because I see the soul journeys people have taken in their various incarnations, in many different places. So you're looking at past, present, future, and parallel lives, not only on Earth, but within our solar system, within our galaxy, within other galaxies. Yeah, a lot of people, they want to identify with a specific star system in the galaxy, and that's fine. But understand that you also have connections to other places in other galaxies. Yeah, you've been to other galaxies. You can bring those memories forward. All right. Individuals have also been what I call cosmic consciousnesses. All right. They've just been a part of the fabric of the universe. And there are different frequencies, purposes, and types of information that come through having your consciousness at that level. Okay. In addition, the higher self can also bring forward information and energetic templates, polarity archetypes that are brought through from other universes that perhaps the individual or the soul consciousness has decided to work with in this universe. All right. These templates are always held from the human perspective in the cosmic gateway and the cosmic sun star. And then you'll find energy signatures in different places depending on how it's been manifested in the soul journey through the densities. Okay. Now, what type of incarnations does the higher self bring information forward from, right? So it's obviously galactics. We've talked about, being Arcturian or Syrian or Draco or, whatever. There are many types, avian, it goes on and on and on. It was explained to me because I have an Arcturian lineage as well. It's an aspect of me through a range of frequencies. And I went and I kind of said, well, okay, what type of Arcturian, and show me, and et cetera, et cetera. And obviously the way it presents is different depending on the frequency, right? And the level of consciousness and the degree of matter that the consciousness holds. But they basically presented to me that humans relating to the term Arcturian is like us calling all the thousands upon thousands of species of birds just a bird. Okay, so understand that there are lots of different nuances within each species. All right, I just want each and every one of you to allow yourself to expand your perceptions of who and what we are, and also the types of consciousness and beings that are out there. Right now, that's galactic. The higher self obviously can also access information about your roles in the angelic realm. So every human has a degree of angelic energy that they carry. There are some humans that are incarnated that have, you could say, a greater percentage of that consciousness embedded within their matrix to be activated and worked with, and they have a certain role to play. I know that there are some people that have been called earth angels. And when I've inquired and dug into that, it is because they are individuals who are holding a tremendous amount of this angelic consciousness, okay? And they serve a very important role and purpose, all right? Many people have also been elemental consciousnesses and energies. From the concept of air, even the concept of air as an elemental has a multidimensional identity, because air, as we relate to it within the atmosphere here on our planet, is one thing. But then energetically, as you raise the frequencies and you say go to what it would be manifested as a cosmic consciousness, well, that's a whole different level. Okay, but there's still it is still sort of of the energy of air. Okay, if you understand what I mean, if air were to have a soul lineage through matter or through frequency, but the air as it functions within the atmosphere, and then you raise the frequency and you go more to a cosmic consciousness and its function there. We won't get into the nuances of this, but again, I want each and every one of you, as you listen to this, to go, that's really interesting. I hadn't thought about it that perspective. It just allows the information, more information to come forward for you to relate to you as you ask more questions, okay? The higher self can also bring through information about your wounded soul aspects and your exalted soul aspects, okay? Now, what does that mean, your wounded soul aspects and your exalted soul aspects? When I'm doing multidimensional energy healing, okay, and I'm working through the energy field, and an individual has a wound that's playing out in their 3D life, let's say abandonment, okay? When I go and I look at, well, what's the origin of this wound of abandonment, okay? And they'll take me to different layers, different frequencies to show how the energy signature of abandonment has been manifested and then embedded multidimensionally within the energy field. You can have these wounds that will be sitting at the 7th layers, the 5th, 6th, 7th, sometimes the 8th layer, sometimes higher, that then need to be integrated. Yeah. Now, these wounds can play out again. Let's look at this from a multidimensional perspective, from polarity archetypes that the soul wanted to play out in the greater journey. So they'll be held, say, within the 12th layer or in the cosmic sun star. Yeah. Then as the frequency is dropped down and it's worked with in the incarnational, multidimensional incarnational process through matter, it will have manifested in various galactic lives, shall we say? Okay, so then you'll see galactic aspects of the individual that will step forward, and you almost get a story of what's played out, typically on a more aggressive level. Okay. And then you'll come to the solar system, you'll see some lives there, maybe it's played out there, and it'll be held in different areas of the energy field. And then you'll come to lives on Earth, and again, it will have played out. And then you finally get to their current life, and you go, okay, we've got this degree of abandonment issues playing out in their life. All right. So when I said previously that, 85% of the wounds an individual is experiencing in their current life, they don't even originate from Earth. Yeah. And to some degree, they are a polarity archetype or a manifestation of the distortions that occur within the polarity archetypes that the soul may have wanted to journey through, explore, experience, et cetera, that just simply haven't been healed yet. Yeah. So just because I'm calling it an energy wound doesn't mean it's permanent. It just means that your soul is still going through the process of integration of these polarities, and making, I always see a wound, the energy signature of a wound again as a sphere. And it just needs to be balanced and integrated and made whole and healed, sort of like your yin yang paradigm or metaphor. Although when they show me the healing of the energy, it's more that it becomes one and whole. So degrees of separateness and fracturing have been healed. That's a better metaphor or perspective in the way that I'm shown how energy healing occurs. Okay. So we've talked about this concept of information brought through by the higher self and multidimensional healings. Obviously, then this would go to soul journey readings, Where have you incarnated and why? When you see the wounded soul aspects, you're able to identify with, I see that's been playing out in my life. I see where this comes from. Actually, I don't need to carry that with me anymore. It really doesn't serve me. And I'm really tired of feeling this way. I'm really tired of this belief. It really just drags me down. It's just not necessary. Yeah. So it makes it much easier for people to just be like, yeah, okay, I'm ready to let this go. And then it's much easier to heal when the person no longer identifies with the wound, however that's defined. Now, we'd also talked about how the higher self shows us exalted soul aspects. What are your talents and what are your abilities? Again, in the soul journey readings, there's just really brilliant and amazing information that comes out. I mean, I've seen so many people who, in their hearts, they'll be connected to something, or they'll have experiences in their life that they don't completely understand. And then, the higher self, their higher self, will bring forward the types of consciousnesses that they are embodying to do the job that they do. I've met people who are able almost to see the future and perceive patterns, almost like through portals. It's absolutely fascinating. They're like, yeah. It's really odd. Yeah, that does kind of happen. And I've always wondered why does that happen? I'm like, okay, they're showing me, okay, it's this type of species being, this is the role, this is the level, this is what's coming through, this is how it guides you, this is how you're embodying its consciousness. And then ironically, sometimes then you'll see the wounded side. And okay, you're not accessing or reaching your fullest potential because you still have this wound over here to heal. Do you want to carry that? Because it's time to let it go and move on. Okay. So this is the type of information that the higher self can come through. Many of you are far more familiar with the higher self coming through for quantum hypnosis or QHHT. Okay. So again, QHHT, quantum hypnosis, you're basically, everybody calls it hypnosis, but you're basically channeling your own higher self with varying degrees of clarity, depending on to what extent you can kind of, your ego will align with the higher self and give it space to speak through you. So QHHT and quantum hypnosis can be really beautiful, beautiful and enlightening experiences, because that is the opportunity for you to experience your own higher self through you and your own words. Yeah. All right. So that's how the higher self brings information forward and the types of information. Now, as we've been talking about the human energy field, I want you all to understand that your 12D, your 12 layered energy field is already complete and whole in and of itself. Okay. And from a higher perspective, you're whole. From our perspective, we have these various blockages that need to be healed through the densities. It's not a big deal. Yeah. And it is a state of consciousness that you all have that exists currently. Okay. So I meet a lot of people who think, oh, I have so much work to do to be able to connect to this consciousness. Oh, I can only connect or see or perceive insights if you're sensitive on different levels at this level or this type of information. What I would like to propose is that each of you has a natural ability. So it's easier to connect on one level or another level. But fundamentally, you are whole at the 12 layers, and you can access this and integrate it with just a little bit of work. Okay, maybe a lifetime of work if we're to be honest, because we're always growing. But I just want you to know that it's accessible in this lifetime, that you can do so much work now and access so much more than just moving into 5D. Okay. And this 12 layer energy field, again, is another metaphor, or is related to as the 12 strands of DNA, relating to a state of consciousness as you go up through the frequencies. All right. Now, we've talked a little bit about energy healing and the energy field. And I think it's important for you to understand a metaphor that's shown to me, because it makes it easier for each of you to relate to your energy field and work with it proactively, right? And this is kind of a sweet story. I'm going to use the metaphor of fracturing, because that's how working with energy is presented to me more often than not, or it's a metaphor that's frequently, shown to me. All right. So I remember once I was working with a smoky quartz crystal, because I use a lot of crystals in my healing. And it needed to be cleared. It was carrying a lot of density. It had done a lot of hard work in the last few sessions. It had portals in it. It was out of alignment. And they showed it to me literally as the whole energy field had been fractured and expanded out. And it was kind of a mess. Yeah. And so it needed to be healed and brought back into alignment. You could almost imagine it like a laser beam that's being blocked and spread out. The energy is more powerful when it's brought into alignment and there's a stream and it's not being fractaled out and distorted and distributed. Okay. Now, when I work in a human energy field throughout the 12 layers, and it's like a sphere, and there are different quadrants that represent different types of information. I'm not going to get into that. When I'm working with people, let's say, for example, people who tell me they can't connect to their higher self, okay? There will be a severe fracturing of the higher self at the 9th level. That fracturing, or the blockages, the separation that's occurred, could go down into lower layers, But there is like almost a hard break between the lower levels of consciousness and the higher self. Now, this can happen at all the lower levels, from broken hearts, self-loathing. I mean, it goes on and on and on, okay? But this fracturing from the higher self, and it's almost the extent of soul fracturing, occurs when an individual honestly believes or holds the belief that they have been forsaken. It's not that they've been abandoned by a parent or a lover, but that they've been abandoned by God or source, their higher selves, that nobody hears them, nobody can help them. They've lost hope for themselves. I will see an absolute schism in the layers of their energy field. Now, that sounds really foreboding, but it's not as bad as you think, because it's just held, that divide is just held in place by a belief, the belief that you've been forsaken. But that's not the case, right? The minute the individual is willing to allow themselves to reach out and ask the higher self to come forward, acknowledge that the higher self hasn't left them. Because there's some people that will get really, really angry with their higher selves and like, you're not listening to me. You haven't responded. I'm not talking to you. That's it. I've actually had clients say, kind of have it out with their higher selves. And like, I get it. There are times when you're like, this is not cool. I'm not happy. Okay. And from the human perspective, that's a journey we have to take. But when a human goes into that state of mind, the higher self's like, I must respect free will. steps back. Now, obviously, this isn't the energetic schism I was just talking about. It's a matter of degree, but I want you all to understand how energetic wounds are created in the energy field, okay? And that they create fractures, horizontal, vertical, diagonal, all over the place for a myriad of reasons. And you have to go into each distortion and feel the energy, understand it, understand the story. Yeah. And by understanding the story or understanding the energy signature or where it is in the energy field, you can have a chat, let it go, heal it, and it's all integrated in that now moment. Okay. So you can go from being forsaken, higher self isn't listening, can't work with the higher self, whatever you're experiencing, to integrating, working with your higher self, in an hour and a half. Sometimes a person just needs a couple hugs and some hand holding, and you just need to move beyond it. This is a very oversimplified version, also going to the example of anything that's been done can be undone in the energy field, because energy is just there to work with our pure consciousness. When you understand that just by thinking and feeling, right? Because your thoughts direct the energy, but your heart sets the frequency, right? And that's why opening up the heart and raising your frequency is such, is talked about so much with regard to ascension, 5D, et cetera, whatever word you want to call it. It's because your heart is setting the frequency, and the higher the frequency, the more powerful you are, okay? It's also more powerful because you have less wounds that you're carrying, right? So it's not dampened down as much, right? That's part of it. Everything all fits together. It's highly sophisticated, highly integrated, your energy field, all right? So I want you to understand that this is one of the reasons people will have difficulty connecting to their higher levels of consciousness. They simply carry beliefs, understandings, and have had experiences where they have separated from self to a certain degree, or there are other experiences of separation and schisms within them. You can have masculine, feminine schisms, et cetera, et cetera. It goes on and on, okay? So our goal is for you to begin working with your higher self to heal, integrate, all the distortions or wounds in your energy field, and thereby activate your energy field. And activating really is when you're anchoring or integrating the higher frequency consciousnesses into the lower frequency. When you remove all the wounds and the barriers, then the higher dimensional frequencies, they work freely, they run frequently from the first layer to the 12th layer, and so forth and so on, and higher. Yeah, we're all connected at higher levels of frequencies beyond 12. We're just going to work with the 12 layer energy matrix to keep it simple for right now. Okay. Now, I think that's pretty good. So we've sort of discussed how, again, previously I talked about the 12 layer human energy field. What I find really interesting is people usually, it's pretty easy for them to start making the jump into 4th, 5th, and 6th layers. Yeah. But then there's a struggle that comes in because there's a frequency barrier between 6th and 7th layer, where you're moving from soul consciousness into monadic consciousness. Also integrating this energetically. And this is a chat in and of itself. There's what they call the activation of the human angelic wings. This occurs when you're starting to move in, integrate, and work with the 7th layer. Obviously, 8th, 9th layer. 9th is the higher self. Okay, so just keep that in mind. Then there is a frequency barrier between the 9th and 10th layer. So going from monadic consciousness into Christic Buddhic consciousness, and moving into each layer, there is a degree of integrity that is required as you expand your consciousness, you could relate to it as the sword of Excalibur and the pure heart. Okay, so there's a level of purifying that is required as you expand more fully into the higher layers of your energy field. Okay. All right. So how does the higher self work with us in this manner? Well, it's the higher self that brings forward this information for you. Your higher self has the overview of your energy field and can access the information lower and higher to say, okay, this is the bigger picture. This is what you need to work with. This is how we're going to heal you, right? And so your higher self is in the higher frequencies, right? At the 9th level. You're in 3rd density, right? And so you do the work down here, your higher self does the work up here, and you meet in between and you do all the clearing. What I often find is it can get as simple as the human sitting in 3D says, okay, I release this to you. I release this to you, higher self. I want you to clear this out for me. And to the extent that the individual truly is ready to release the wound, it will clear out the levels of density that it can. Okay. Now, you obviously have your soul journey that you've agreed to, right, with the higher self. So there are some experiences you're still going to have to work through and navigate. And we can talk about navigating the healing of wounds through the frequencies more in depthly another time. But I want you to understand that this is how you work with your higher self, and your higher self works with you, and why it's so important for you to be conscious of it, why it's so important for you to begin working with it and then integrating it. And by integrating it, it's that you no longer see separation between you and your higher self, that you can shift your consciousness almost from, I am cooking dinner, I just finished the grocery list. Oh, by the way, I have this question. And you shift to your higher self and you have like your little coffee chat. Oh, thank you. Okay, that is helpful. You always have more questions. You know, it's like never good enough. But when it's your own journey, you have to do your own work. Anyway, so that's what it becomes. When you're able to work with your higher self on this level, it's a much easier journey. All right. So that's all very helpful, right? Now, there are other reasons why you also want to know and work with your higher self, right? A lot of people, in fact, pretty much anyone who's interested in listening to this, you're probably interested in your galactic heritage. You're probably working with energy. You're probably interested in channeling, readings, et cetera, et cetera. So you are beginning to work with and expanding into a greater or higher frequency consciousness, right? One of the biggest pitfalls people fall into is discernment. Okay. So why is discernment important? It's really important to know what type of energy you're connecting to and at what frequency that energy resides at, right? You need to use discernment with the energies and the consciousnesses you're connecting with, right? Okay, so they're the types of consciousnesses, right? I know people who have really set the intention with curiosity of, I really want to connect with galactic beings. And that's really wonderful. And then they'll be like, yeah, I've been getting, this sign or that, or et cetera, et cetera. What do they mean? All right, so let's connect to the energies. All right. So it looks like there are a couple different species coming through. Okay, one is part of your soul group. This is really interesting, little story chat. That's really fun. Oh, here's another energy. All right. They're benevolent, they're interested. They're at a slightly lower frequency, right? So there's polarity there. If you're interested, connect, see what you bring through, make sure your energy is yours, their energy is theirs. Yeah. Oops. And you've also called in a couple other energies, not from this galaxy. And I would suggest maybe they're not who you want to be hanging out with. That's for you to decide, but maybe you should consider, right? So who are you connecting with? Do they work for 100% in alignment with the love and light and love of source for your greatest good and the highest and greatest good of all? Okay, not everybody is so refined in their frequency that they're 100% aligned. So as you come down lower frequencies, they're going to be more polarity. There will be agendas, there will be purposes. They still have information to bring through, but know who the energy is, know what the energy is, understand the agenda, understand if the degree to which there are likely to be distortions. The lower the frequency, the more distortions. We can't help it. We're in 3D for a reason, right? So use that. Now, what's the density of the energy, right? There are some malevolent energies that are, 2D. That's really heavy energy, right? Do you want your advice coming from 2D? Look, if you want to work with them and align, that's absolutely fine. That's cool. But make sure you're aware of the choices you're making. So when I tell people go to your higher self, you're a much, much higher frequency, right? You're beyond light body, you're at group consciousness. And while they explained that they are held within the realm of matter, that's at a very, very high frequency. Well, I won't get into defining that, but understand what you're dealing with. They don't necessarily have bodies per se as you and I would relate to it. All right. And so it's really important that people understand and set intentions for the energy they're connecting with. Yeah. The lower the density, the greater the polarity, the more the agenda, and maybe the advice or the information, still holds distortions. Okay. And that's for you to navigate. Okay. Why else is discernment important when connecting with the higher self? Because there's the ego. Each of us has the ego. Our ego is functioning when we're driving our car, again, doing the grocery list, when you're going to your day job, whatever it is. Your ego is a really important aspect of you. It's your life. Yeah. So the ego, it's important on our journey to bring the ego into alignment with our soul purpose and our soul journey. Yeah. But as you're starting to work with energy and as you're starting to channel and bring information through, your ego holds its own energy signature and it can overlay on the information coming through and create distortions. So it's really important to be able to sit there and go, do we have any interference? And maybe you'll get, yes, there's interference. Okay. Is it interference from an energy other than you, my higher self? No. Okay. We have interference. Is it my ego? Yes. Okay. So why would your ego be interfering? Your ego can interfere with the integrity or the purity of the energy signature from your higher self if you have a strong belief already in place, right? If you are emotionally attached to an outcome and you want the information or the answer to be X, but the higher self is trying to say, well, it's not Y, but it's more like W, and you need to understand X, Y, and Z variables, right? So you limit the information or distort the information coming through from the higher self if your ego is, for whatever reason, overlaying the information coming in. You always have to be very careful, right? So your higher self is going to be your North Star, right? As you go through your journey on Earth. Like I've said before, it is the best consciousness to be guiding you on your current journey. If you want to work with other energies, that's great. Work with other energies, but always align and kind of tap in with your higher self. Like, what do you think about this? And sometimes the higher self will be like, no answer. It's like totally your choice, cannot interfere. This is part of your journey, right? So understand that. When is discernment going to be important, right? Like I said, it's really important that your intentions that you set before you meditate, you channel, work with other energies, or what have you, that you've set very clear intentions, that your energy is sovereign. Your energy is yours, their energy is theirs, right? And you don't intermingle them. I mean, understand to a degree, generally, you want to keep your energy separate from other energies, depending on the frequency, especially lower frequencies. It's great just to say, thank you very much. You can just like, tell me that, that's great. Okay. And disconnect, unless of course, the aspect that you're channeling is an aspect of you. then it's like one and the same. Okay. But you're going to use discernment and energetic sovereignty concepts in meditation, channeling, visions, and healing, depending on the type of healing you do. I would like to suggest that it's important for each and every one of you to really set your intentions and your boundaries for what you'd like to connect with. Okay? All right. I think there's another aspect to this as well. Most of you listening to this, because you'll be interested in bringing information through, understand that everybody has a perspective. Even the information I'm bringing forward for you today is based upon my own experiences, the language I've used, which has its own meaning with my higher self. So my higher self will bring information through and I understand what it means. But that word might mean something different to you, right? So it can create misunderstandings or distortions, yeah? So if any of you are going to channels, mediums, healers, it's really important for you to go back and check in with your higher self. Okay, this information was provided to me. Is there truth? Is it accurate? Is there anything else I need to understand, right? Is the information for my highest and greatest good? Were there any distortions? Yeah. So you can kind of, play with your higher self to be like, that was really interesting information. I really enjoyed that. This totally resonated, totally, hit the nail on the head. This, I don't think I understand that. What did that mean? Yeah. So you can go to your higher self and work with that processing of information, because you should always define yourself through you, right? Not through somebody else. Other people will hold keys for you to find your path, but ultimately, it's you that defines you. It's you that activates you. Yeah. Everyone else is just here to help you and support you. Right. And if ever somebody tells you you're less than who you are, think about the frequency of the information. Okay. There's more likely than not going to be a distortion there. All right. All right. Also, not all channelers, mediums, healers, etc. know everything. We only will get information that we can relate to the individual at the time based upon the level of consciousness they're holding at that moment, right? So information might be more limited at the beginning of your journey because you need some breadcrumbs to ask questions. But if you're further along on the journey or more open-minded, well, then it's like a waterfall that comes through, and it's like there's so much information coming through, and then the person connects very quickly, and off you go. So understand that there are many variations in the process and the experience, okay? All right. So what does it feel like to work with the higher self? The process of integrating your higher self-consciousness, because it's at a higher frequency, it is more objective. It's more observant. Yeah. Because it accesses information from a multidimensional soul level. It's pulling from an enormous background of information and data points. So it can be there to guide you on your next steps. It can guide you in what you need to understand about the situation you're currently in. It can help you learn from the experiences you've had. Because remember, when you've had conflict, there's a reason it's been attracted to you. If you've had an unpleasant situation, okay, that person has their own wound and it needs to be healed. So you forgive them and let them go on their journey, right? Because it's not your responsibility. But you do have a responsibility to you. How did you feel when the experience happened? Okay, what were all the emotions that were brought up? What are you supposed to learn from that? It may not just be, one thing you're supposed to learn. There may be a multitude, or there may be a layering of lessons to be learned, wounds to be healed. Yeah. And then ask, what beliefs am I carrying that attracted it? And then how do I need to heal to make myself whole so I don't attract the experience again? Yeah. If you're willing to listen, right? And when I say when you're willing to listen, this is where the ego comes in, like, no, that's not possible. No, that's not me. No, I'm above that. No, I'm far too evolved for that. Well, you know what? We're still in 3D and we all have lessons to learn. So you keep revisiting an experience. And when it's healed, you'll know, because you won't have an energetic connection to the individual in the same way anymore. You will genuinely feel a freedom. You won't be triggered when the experience happens. You won't have an emotional response because you don't need one, because you don't care anymore, because it's not relevant. You've sort of moved on. There's moving on in denial, and there's moving on because you've made yourself whole. Okay. Understand the difference. It's part of the journey. Okay. I think the other thing to remember with regard to the importance of connecting to the higher self is that the way I'm shown it is that each individual has had their own unique soul journey. Sure, I've seen patterns and things that I can relate to, but on the face of it, every single individual has had a completely different soul journey. When I go into an energy field, no two energy fields are exactly the same. They're all different. They all have different stories. There may be some similarities, but they are all absolutely unique. Okay? And so as a result, no two human energy matrices are the same. Yeah? All right. So I think we've done a pretty good job of talking about how to work with the higher self and its purpose in our journey, right? I think the last point I want to make before we go is that the higher self, because it is at a higher frequency, it must respect your free will, okay? And by this, I mean, you get to decide who you want to be, when you want to be, how you want to be, how you want to do it. You get to decide all your beliefs, all of your emotions. You're entitled to them all, good, bad, and ugly, yeah? Your higher self really isn't going to intervene. Obviously, there are preset exit points and purposes and et cetera, et cetera. But what we're looking at is generally, if you believe, for example, in separation, or that you've been abandoned, or that you're weak or you're vulnerable or you don't have the strength or the power, or maybe you like power, you like control, and you enjoy controlling others or enjoy hurting others. I know people watching this might be like, well, who would do that? But there are people who actually enjoy those things. There are people who don't want to take responsibility for their actions. You know, they want to blame others. This happens throughout humanity, right? Your higher self is going to let you indulge in those experiences, right? It's going to allow you to dirty up your energy field. It's going to allow you to track difficult and unpleasant experiences, right? But the thing is, the minute you ask, you shall receive, okay? Your higher self will move the sun, the moon, and the stars to connect with you. It will navigate all of your beliefs. For example, if you're somebody who goes to church and you pray all the time and you're very spiritual and you only identify with God and angels, then all higher frequency energies will present as angels because it's non-threatening. They'll bring you information, you know, in a manner that resonates with those beliefs. If you've opened up your heart space, yeah, and you're working at that frequency and you call and say, I need help, the energy will come through as an angel. It may be angelic, it may not be angelic, but it will present as angelic because you'll respond to it. Your ego will be able to identify with the energy signature in something not of this material world came forward to work with you. All right. So I want you to understand that you're always loved. You'll always be cared for. And your higher self is kind of like that parent just waiting there to be asked for help. And the minute you ask for help, it rolls up its sleeves and it does everything it can because it wants you to be whole. Because the other thing, look at it from the flip side, which I don't know that a lot of people do, is when you integrate your higher self, when you unite, quote unquote, heaven on earth, when you've aligned with your soul purpose and your soul mission, your soul consciousness, which, yes, is dictated from much higher frequencies and much less polarity. But from this state of consciousness and frequency, working with energy is so easy. Like when they talk about being a co-creator, they literally mean it with the manifestation and everything else. So your higher self, that level of consciousness, gets to explore and experience a 3D reality, the lower densities and what you can create and manifest through you. It's basically, it's a win-win situation. We look at it as, oh, I'm connecting with my higher self. It's separate from me. And they're saying, oh, I'm connecting with myself. It's down there. That's the doorbell. I have to go soon. Sorry, totally interrupted and distracted. But think about it this way, that it's a fun way to look at it because working with energy and this level of consciousness makes the world and reality so much more enjoyable. All right. It just has to do with the deconstruction of your beliefs that block access. All right. All right. So I think we're going to wrap this up. If you have any questions, please email me or connect with me on my website. I look forward to meeting all of you in some way, shape, or form. Sorry, I was distracted by the doorbell. And if you have any more questions and you want to expand on this, by all means do. I do have the Connecting with Your Higher Self. A class is coming up in January. If you see this in January, if not, it's past. I do group hypnosis sessions, which are really fun. It's a past life regression. I do a monthly Zoom call. It's private, it's small. I only let about 20 people in, and We just chit chat, channel, ask questions, impromptu healing. It can be really a lot of fun. Um, it's kind of bonding. I really enjoy it. So if you're interested in that, check it out. It's all on my website under classes and events. And I am teaching a class on how to read your energy field. And later this spring, this is 2022, I'll be doing a series of courses to teach people how to work with the energy field on a quantum level. So it will be sort of a beyond Reiki series. So if you're a Reiki healer or you're sensitive to energy, this is a great place to start and expand your repertoire. All right. So with much love and light to all of you, I hope to see you in the future. Have a great day, evening, weekend, if it's coming up for you, and I'll see you later. Bye.
I can have my visions and show them to the treasure.